The other one that really grabs anybody, I've heard this from several people, is this masterpiece of kind of an unfinished canvas in some ways.
Yeah, it's called Three Sisters.
Yeah.
By Quang Ho.
And
Originally done as a single figure in the center, and he threw that woman into the pool in a wedding dress, a white dress, kind of reminiscent of a wedding dress. Got in there with a GoPro and started photographing her, from underneath the water, and decided that one figure was not dynamic enough. Two is kind of boring. Three's better. Four would have been too many, and so kind of came up with the three things, and had a buyer walk into his gallery, his studio space there at his home in Denver, and loved it. And the buyer has three daughters, and Quang, kind of sold it as the three daughters, the three sisters.
Three sisters, right.
And the man is, Quang was going to have it framed, and you don't show there the unfinished part of the canvas.
Actually, I will here. I want to, the thing that struck me visually about this is that when you, so like here is when you walk across, so when you're standing across the gallery, right?
They're going to hang it raw just like that.
Yeah, I think you have three of those in that particular.
There's three gallery wraps, like that gallery, just raw galleries,
right?
Which we really like. And Quang we have a little statement up next to each of those paintings that says, "I like the visual feel of it, the look of it, let things run down the page," and
right,
and he's just. He's just kind of a wild man when he looks at that.
And then he gives things a different perspective too, which I thought was interesting. So like this shot right here, or this piece right here, where it's the horse is kind of riding through the pines.
Yeah,
it's like he's from the back of the horse. And he's just painting a picture while he's riding with them.
He spent the week riding in the Tetons, and of course you go through the mountains, and sometimes it's hard to find with all the dapple light in there. It's hard to find the riders and where the forest ends and the forest begins, and he does that several times, and as well as anybody, kind of a blend, a one, and Quang has said that Scott Christensen has this depth to his work, right? I mean, you look at it and you enter into it and you go for miles, literally miles.
Right.
And Quang is the first to admit that when you see his paintings, you hit this stop sign, you go,
boom. It's much more intimate. Summer shade. I mean, it's a routine shot, but it's spectacular. With Quang Ho, he has a whole thing with ballerinas that I was sort of torn on. Like I liked him, but I ended up being drawn to this one because it felt like Singer Sargent to me. This wedding kimono one, I think it's just spectacular. And then his final piece, which was fascinating too, because it showed the diversity of the collection. Sometimes you have to go and be surprised by things at the Museum of Western Art, and I always find this. I find this every time you have something. I find it to be somewhat.
Well, we're glad we could surprise you, Louis.
Well, that's what you guys do. You surprise me. Is this piece right here? This is the 27-year feast, and this is when he goes back to Vietnam, right? And he's
I mean, Quang and his family, his mom and 5 siblings left. Saigon the day before Saigon fell in 1975, and the communists were taking over. They got on one of those helicopter transports and went to Korea, and leaving Dad behind because Dad had been taken capture by the Vietnamese and Viet Cong as a prisoner of war.
Right.
And so they left Dad behind, and they went to Korea, and then were in Korea at a camp when an American bureaucrat came in and said, "Does anybody have any family in the United States?"
Right.
And his mom raised her hand and said, "We do, we do." And Quang says, "We didn't."
We didn't, right.
But so where's your family? And the only city in America that his mother could remember the name of was Denver. So they sent her to Denver.
Denver.
So